My name is Michelle. I'm a 31-year-old office worker. My husband, John, is 2 years older than me at the age of 33. We met through a setup, and now we're in our second year of marriage. I was what you'd call a sheltered only child, attending public school like anyone else during my elementary years. But from middle school through college, I attended a private girls' school. There was that characteristic same-sex admiration typical of girls' schools, but I didn't quite understand romantic feelings for men. It was not that I had no desire to get married, but I had only been with a man twice in my early 20s. We parted ways without ever progressing to marriage. I thought, I'll meet the right person eventually, but before I knew it, I was in my 30s. Seeing this, my parents seemed worried. My concerned father finally lost patience and started bringing matchmaking profiles, saying, "It wouldn't hurt just to meet them." One of those men is my current husband, John. After our initial meeting, we saw each other a few times, and he confessed his feelings for me. John is a gentle soul, and he held his parents in high regard. I too cherished my parents, and feeling our values aligned, I thought I could make it work with this man, and so I decided to marry him. After that, our marriage was quickly arranged. Our parents and friends blessed us at our wedding reception, and I was overjoyed. I wished for this happiness to continue forever. However, within a half year of marriage, my father-in-law passed away due to an illness, and John became overly attentive to his mother, who was left alone. John frequently visits my mother-in-law and even goes on trips with her. While he also cherishes me, his mother-in-law always takes precedence when it comes to her. At this point, it seems to me more like he's a mama's boy than simply caring for his mother. It's a little frustrating, but apart from that, there are no major issues, and I resigned myself to the thought that this is what marriage is, and I compromised with my life. Lately, my joy has been entering sweepstakes, winning prizes, and writing reviews or introducing them on my blog. Most of my winnings were cosmetics and food, but one day I won a pair of plane tickets to Miami. This was the first time I'd won such a high-value prize, so of course I was shocked when I got the call. The winning pair of tickets required me to notify the airline in advance of who would be going. I thought to myself, what should I do? It would be really nice to go with John, but John just went on a trip with his mother-in-law recently. Considering that John often travels within his own pocket money, I decided to gift the tickets to my parents this time. I immediately went to my parents' house and told them the news. Guess what? I won a trip to Miami. Why don't you guys go, Mom and Dad? Oh my, when was the last time we had an overseas trip, dear? Hearing my mom's words, she was overjoyed. However, Dad didn't seem as enthusiastic. I have work commitments. Dad, didn't you say you still have some paid leave left? It's a busy season for our industry, and as the department head, I can't really take time off. Michelle, if you can manage to get leave, why don't you and Mom go instead? I see. Well, it's a great opportunity, so why not? Having been turned down by my dad, I decided to broach the topic of leave with my boss the next day. Fortunately, it was a quiet period at work, and I got permission easily. I promptly contacted the airline to let them know Mom and I would be going. And after work, I stopped by a bookstore at the station to buy a guidebook on Miami. I headed home with my head full of dreams about the trip. When I arrived near the house, I noticed the lights were already on. John must have returned home already. I need to hurry with dinner, I thought. But when I opened the door, it wasn't John's shoes I saw in the entrance, but a familiar pair of women's shoes. Michelle, what do you think you're doing leaving the house empty until this late? Oh, mother-in-law, I didn't know you were here. This is not about whether I was here or not. It's time for John to come home. Normally, you would be preparing dinner and a bath to welcome your husband home. Don't you have any sense of your responsibilities as a wife? My mother-in-law lives nearby and has a spare key that John gave her. I understand she's lonely since her husband passed away, but her unannounced visits and assumption of making herself at home do not sit well with me. Moreover, my mother-in-law subscribes to the old-fashioned notion that a wife should serve her husband's family, and she doesn't seem to like the fact that I work. Each time we meet, she nags or throws snide comments my way, so I find it hard to warm up to her. Well, what's with the sour face? And that bag? Did you take a detour instead of coming straight home? What a useless wife. Show me what you bought. What are you doing? Stop it. Ignoring my protest, my mother-in-law snatched the bag with the guidebook in it. What's this? Are you guys going to Miami? How extravagant. No, this is a prize I won. I'm giving it as a gift to my mother. Well, nobody told me about this. As my mother-in-law and I were arguing, John arrived home. I'm home. What's going on here? Welcome home, John. I hear that Michelle won a trip to Miami in a lottery. How standoffish of you to give it to Michelle's parents without any discussion. I would have loved to go. A trip? To Miami? I wasn't informed either. I thought I'd present this to my parents this time. How many people can go on this trip? It's for 2 people. Well, you should have told me beforehand. I would have loved to go as well. Why are you deciding things on your own? I also considered going with just the 2 of us, but this time I wanted to gift it to my mother. What are you misunderstanding here? This time, I'm going with Mom, and you're staying home. My husband cut off my words and started saying outrageous things. No way! I won this. I'm going to give it as a gift to my mother. We can do that another time, right? Since Mom wants to go, try to understand. What are you talking about? You just went on a trip with your mother not too long ago. What's wrong with going on a trip with my own money? Anyways, this time, Mom and I are going. If you don't like it, we can get a divorce. When I heard the word divorce, which my husband brought up like a trump card, I felt my feelings for him completely cooling off. Fine, do what you want. I decided to get back at them and backed off. My husband and mother-in-law, ignorant of such a thing, looked triumphant. You should understand. You should have done that from the beginning. Ignoring their sneering and arbitrary words, I was contemplating how to get back at my husband and mother-in-law. The next day, I reported the situation to my parents. My mother, who was really looking forward to it, seemed disappointed, but she showed understanding, saying, I see. If that's the case, it can be helped. It's better than causing a rift between the two of you, so don't worry. Feeling sorry for my mother, I decided to make up for this situation. After that, I called the airline during my lunch break and informed them that I'd like to change the trip to Miami to my husband and mother-in-law. The call center operator looked troubled. We're sorry, but we can't accept changes to the reservation once it's been made. Moreover, the airline tickets are invalid if the winner isn't present. This was written in the documents we sent you. Please check. When I looked at the rules on the back of the air ticket and the winning notification carefully, it indeed said, only the winner has rights and transfer is not allowed. I explained the situation to the operator and told him that I would decline this prize. As for my husband and others, I decided not to inform them about this, and if they really want to go, they should pay the full amount on the day. So, that night, my husband, who came home from work, opened the conversation like this. Hey, Michelle, you did call the airline, right? Told them we're going to Miami with Mom? I made the call. Here, take a look. The winning documents and tickets. All the details are in there. Make sure you read it. What a hassle. I can get by without reading all that. Just take it, will you? I gave it to my husband knowing he doesn't read these things, but he, as expected, didn't read it and put it on the shelf. Try to enjoy this as a good deed to your mother-in-law, okay? I'll be more than happy to stay home. I can't wait to see the look on their faces on the day of the trip. John was staring at me, looking as if he'd been hit by a ton of bricks. And then the day of the trip arrived. John and his mother were held up at the airport. What? What's the meaning of this? Explain. As we have said, these tickets cannot be transferred. If the winner of the tickets is not present, they are void. This is stated in our policy, and anyone else will need to pay the full amount. John and his mother had booked some very fancy hotels, leaving their budget on the brink. And then, as John and his mother were trying to buy tickets at the counter, another disaster struck. I am very sorry, but there seems to be an error. Could you please use another method of payment other than this credit card? That can't be. I've been using it just fine until now. Why is this happening? I'm afraid we can't determine the issue here. Please check with your card company. John, having no other choice, paid with another credit card and then called me. Hey, what's going on? The tickets you gave me can't be used, and now my credit card's been declined. Did you read the back of the ticket? It clearly states that the tickets are void if the winner cannot be present. And I know nothing about your credit card issues. Not my card. Your credit card. Oh, I see. Well, I've suspended my card. I didn't see it in my wallet, so I suspected that you might have taken it. I'm glad it wasn't misused. That's not funny. You won't get off so easy when we get back. That's your own doing. What you did is stealing, you know. What a woman. I'm divorcing you. Get out. Sure. Just as I thought you'd say, as you wish, I'll agree to a divorce. The truth is, I was planning to go back to my parents' house before he told me to leave. I had already packed up using the paid leave I had taken for this trip. When I left the house, I took the passbook and the seal so he couldn't spend our savings, and informed the neighbors that we would be divorcing. When I checked the amount of our savings for property division in case of divorce, I found out that he had spent it several times over. I never recalled withdrawing the money, so it's clear that John was behind it. When cross-referencing with my daily blog posts, the day the money was withdrawn coincided perfectly with when John and my mother-in-law were on vacation. I reported to my parents about being approached for a divorce by John, that he had taken my credit card, and he had gone on a trip with my mother-in-law using our joint savings. Upon hearing my story, my parents gradually grew stern. I can't believe John would do such a thing.
I'm sorry. It's my fault for setting up the arranged date.
My dad bowed his head in apology to me. He seemed quite angry with John.
This is my responsibility. Leave the rest to me.
Actually, my dad is a director at the parent company of John's company, and he occasionally conducts audits. This time, although someone else was supposed to go, my dad rearranged his schedule on short notice to audit John's company. There, he invited John's superior, who is an executive at the subsidiary, for a meal. Given that the position of director at the parent company is higher than that of the president of the subsidiary, John's superior was trying hard to appease my dad while breaking into a cold sweat. My dad told John's superior about me at the meal.
Actually, my daughter is going to get divorced. It seems that there were troubles due to the husband's excessive attachment to his mother. I would have told her to endure it if it were just that, but it seems he also took out my daughter's credit card without her permission and even dipped into her savings. I couldn't tell her to get back together with him. By the way, the son-in-law, former son-in-law, I suppose. He's your subordinate, isn't he? How's his work attitude lately? I hear it's a busy period, but I haven't seen him around.
Upon hearing my divorce story from my dad, John's superior, who had a bad feeling about it, decided to investigate John. John, being the son-in-law of the parent company's director, was a well-known fact in his company, and he was somewhat favored, so it would likely reveal quite a bit if scrutinized. I am arranging for a lawyer introduced by my dad to handle the divorce procedures and will soon be sending a written confirmation including the issue of alimony and property division. John told me that he wouldn't let it slide, but it seems that it won't slide for John and his mom after they return from Miami. And sometime after John and my mother-in-law returned from Miami, John came to visit my parents' house.
Michelle, what's this certified mail all about? I'm broke. I can't afford to pay any alimony. And what's this property division? It's just a marital spat. There's no need to go this far. I apologize, so please come back.
What are you saying? Have you even read what's in the certified mail? Your mom's daily mental abuse? Not to mention dipping into our savings and trying to use my credit card without my permission? There's no way we can make amends, right?
Please don't say that. Since you left, it's been rough on both Mom and me.
Really? For instance, are you getting cold stares from the neighborhood women? Or, has there been a big problem at work? John seemed to stiffen at my words. I guess I hit the mark.
How did you?
Who knows? Why do you think that is? If you think about what you've done, you might get it. There's no way I could get back together with you, and I'll have you pay what needs to be paid. Prepare yourself. Also, please go through the attorney from now on. If you continue to linger, I'll report it to the security company. When I mentioned the security company, John finally backed down and left dejectedly. Actually, everything that John came crying about was something that my dad and I had set up. Before returning to my parents' house, I visited the neighbors and told them, I was kicked out of the house after my mother-in-law and husband stole the plane tickets I won in a lottery. I must say, my performance was incredibly convincing given my drama club experience from my student years. Apparently, ever since my husband and mother-in-law returned from their trip in Miami, they've been the subject of whispers and gossip in the neighborhood. My mother-in-law was embarrassed to find out from a local busybody that she was being avoided because she'd heard, "You took your daughter-in-law's winning travel tickets and kicked her out, didn't you? What happened next? You must tell me everything." From this, at my husband's company, my father had an investigation carried out. It turned out that my husband, who was the son-in-law of a department head in the parent company, was using his position to do whatever he wanted. He took time off during busy periods to travel with his mother-in-law, repeatedly showing up late or leaving early. Not only that, but he was also found to be embezzling company funds. Given the circumstances, he was fired, and the company declared to all its employees that it would no longer show preferential treatment to family members of those in the parent company. Thanks to the lawyer hired by my father, my divorce proceedings went smoothly and I officially divorced my husband. I was finally able to return to being single. The savings my husband had squandered were split evenly according to the amount before he began dipping into them, and I received a decent amount of compensation. The daily records I had kept in my blog were recognized as evidence of his emotional abuse. I felt very refreshed after getting my revenge on my husband and mother-in-law. I didn't want to just keep the compensation I received from my divorce, so I decided to splurge and enjoy myself. I scheduled a vacation to coincide with my father's company holiday, and I decided to go on the overseas trip I couldn't take before. I was unsure of where to go, but considering my mother's wishes, we decided to go to Miami. My parents and I planned our itinerary by looking through the guidebooks, planning to enjoy the crystal clear seas and coral reefs, do some shopping, and fully enjoy our first family vacation in a long time. Having saddened my parents with my divorce, I intend to make it up to them from now on. I can't think about remarriage right now, but if I find someone I truly want to be with, I might consider getting married again. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm looking forward to my trip with my parents and cherishing this happiness.